A very warm welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Michelle de Klerk. I'm the founder of the Women's Chapter. And today, as part of our Women-Led Wonder series, we are talking to one of our wonderful members, Alicya Sinclair, who's the founder of Sinclair London. She's had an amazing career so far. And we're going to be talking more about that today. But Alicya, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Before we kind of start off, I would love to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are now running your own business.
So, gosh, my journey started when I was 16, so a good, decade and a bit ago now, or almost 2 decades ago now. And I started my career off in bridal originally. So I was working in a bridal shop at the same time I was studying. And I think that kind of gave me the first sort of outlook in terms of how kind of the fashion industry, bridal industry, a business and a boutique was ran. And during the process, I was there for 4 years working with them. I saw them go from having one small boutique to 5 boutiques. And I really enjoyed kind of the journey that they were on, and it was nice to see the business grow, and it was nice to understand more about the collections and understand more about the business side of things. And the industry has always been something I've been interested in anyway, in terms of fashion. And the business side of fashion. So after that, I then went on to do an apprenticeship on Savile Row because I was more kind of hands-on instead of wanting to learn more about the design process and the history. I was more interested in the construction side, the making, the client services, the fitting side. And when you're sort of training and working on Savile Row, it's a whole different ball game in terms of fashion, how things are opening. So it was really, really interesting. It was a great experience. And from that point on, I then went on to be a cutter at a couture house in Knightsbridge. And again, it was really nice to work with kind of intimate clients from, royalties to celebrities. And it was really, really good to kind of meet, because it was quite a small company and a small team. It was great to meet everyone from the company, from, the CEO to the head of the designer to the sales assistants. And I think it was from that point I thought, okay, this is definitely something I would want to do. And after about 1.5 years working for the company, I then decided to kind of launch my own business.
Wow. And is it true that you're still the only female Savile Row trained tailor?
Yes, I am. Yeah. So there is a couple of ladies who have shops on Savile Row, but they are not Savile Row trained. So I trained at Savile Row Academy and at Morris Sedwell's, which is number 19 Savile Row. And so that's where my apprenticeship was. And at the time, it was only obviously just menswear tailoring, because Savile Row was obviously the pinnacle menswear tailoring. And I remember having the conversation with my professor, and I said, there's a real opportunity here to do, open up the market for women's tailoring, because at the time they were taking menswear patterns and converting them to women's patterns. And he said, okay, well, yeah, if that's something that you want to do, I'll help and I support you. And that was kind of the avenue I decided to take a route down, because I thought, well, if men can do it, so can women.
Well, absolutely. And I think it's still, mind-blowing to a certain extent that you are still the only one, that nobody else has gone down that route, because there is absolutely a demand for female tailoring, and you have a business based around that now, which is obviously goes way beyond just tailoring, because I know you're doing a lot with TV shows and series and costume design and all of that. It's you have multiple strings to your bow when it comes to dress designing and tailoring.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, the film side of the business is kind of something we kind of fell into. So my PR and marketing company at the time, they had created sort of a 360-degree sort of marketing plan. Yeah. And some of it was involved in, all right, let's see if we can, dress some ladies on the red carpet. Let's see if we can do some product placements in films. Let's see if we can do some events as well, some sort of, international events. And as we kind of started sort of circulating around the ideas and putting some ideas down on paper, we started kind of reaching out to a couple of people we already knew in the industry, a couple of the stylists we'd worked with previously, some of my personal contacts, and we got commissioned for one of our first films, actually. So we wanted to, a couple of pieces we had made at the time, which was just like, you know, some women's waistcoats, we sent to one of the gentlemen who was working on Savile Row, and he went into film in the end, and he said, oh, can we borrow a couple of your pieces? So we sent a couple of pieces down, and he said, actually, can you just come down and just help us make the pieces? And that was kind of the first entry into film for us. And it's now one of our main brand projects. So we do run sort of 2 brand projects, which is where we're working with production companies twice a year to either do sort of a feature film or a TV series. And they're very, very exciting projects.
Wow, that's amazing. And can you tell us a little bit more about your mission and your vision for Sinclair London?
Absolutely. So I'm all about female empowerment, all about female empowerment. And I think in a lot of industries and instances as well, especially on, you know, Savile Row, it's a very male-dominated industry. And at the time, there was only probably about 4 or 5 of us across all houses. So from Henry Poole to Gibbs and Hawkes to Huntsman, there was one at Richard Anderson, and we were sort of like females who were working in the industry at that time. And it was nice to know that we were all kind of working in the industry, but it's always nice to have more women join in the industry as well, because we all have something to give. So when I kind of started, I kind of thought to myself, well, what is the purpose? What is the mission? And we kind of circulated around the idea, and it came back to kind of my values in terms of women empowerment, is that, you know, I don't necessarily want to be a fashion brand that changes the world, simply just dress the women who do. So we kind of took a spin on that, and that kind of led us to the type of collections we were making, the type of pieces we were designing. And instead of doing, you know, following the traditional fashion routes where you do sort of 2 to 6 collections a year, we decided to take, okay, what are the pivotal moments in our clients' calendar? You know, they go to business lunches, they go to business breakfasts, they sign corporate deals, they, you know, travel the world, they do speaking events, they do corporate conferences. And it's those pivotal moments where we thought, okay, well, what would our clients want to wear? What is it that they would come to us for? And that's kind of what became our mission. It was all based around our clients and their needs and their wants.
And I guess, you know, it's really interesting actually to take it from that perspective, because I think women like that often are filmed and photographed. And if they are doing kind of the speaker circuit, or they're speaking at a lot of conferences and they're traveling all over, they can't be photographed necessarily in the same outfits all of the time. So I suppose helping them build a capsule wardrobe of really well made and designed pieces that they can use, and I suppose dress up, dress down, change, and have those for all of their different corporate engagements.
Yeah, and it's exactly that, Michelle. It's being able to work with our clients and see, you know, what is it that they would feel comfortable suits them. And we have had a couple of clients who, you know, even I had a lady from Australia the other day, and she was saying how, you know, that we made 3 suits for her, a skirt and a pair of trousers. And she says even to this day, she still gets, you know, comments on those particular pieces. And I think the pieces then they have a bit more of a meaning in terms of the product, because it represented, you know, a very key moment in their career where they had achieved a goal or they had reached a milestone. And it's really good to see how their career has then developed, you know, from that point on as well.
But also from a sustainability perspective, I mean, having pieces like that last you a lifetime, or at least for your professional career, you know, it's a really sustainable way to dress. It's the antithesis of throwaway fashion.
Absolutely. Yeah. And actually, that's one of the key things that I kind of went into. Me personally, I've always been more focused on the construction side of the business anyway. So kind of being able to, you know, design a piece, make a piece, you know, use as less fabric as possible, so there's less wastage as opposed to kind of the ready to wear side of it, which was probably one of the reasons why we kind of joined with Positive Luxury as well, was to kind of build that awareness around sustainability, You know, over 300,000 tons of fashion gets left in the landfill each year. So it's a huge, fashion does play a huge part to the climate, you know, and sustainability as well. So it's a very, very key thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're very honored to have Positive Luxury with our members as well. So it's kind of great to see so many of our members working together, and particularly in the sphere of sustainability, which is something that we just cannot avoid anymore. You know, it's a standard pillar of any business, I think, going forward. And for those of you that might not know Positive Luxury, Sinclair London, for them to have been awarded the butterfly mark, it means that their entire supply chain is sustainable, not only their clothing, but everything that they do in terms of production, which is quite a rigorous process that you have to go through.
It is. It was about a 7 or 8 months process that we went through, but it was great. I mean, because it really forces you to look at your supply chain, you know, being accountable for not just what you do, but right back to, you know, where your fabrics come from, how they're milled, you know, even down to the sales agents that when they get the fabrics in the UK, you know, how they're distributed, and then obviously the and what wastage after that. So it's a brilliant process, and I would definitely recommend anyone to kind of go through it as well.
Brilliant. We've actually had a question, Alicia, it's from Daryl. She's asking, with the movement to more investment clothing, will we see costs come down for more tailored standard pieces to help make them more accessible?
I would definitely say yes. Obviously, I can't speak for every fashion brand, but looking at, you know, if I take my supply chain, for example, and the kind of the costs included, because they are becoming more accessible. You know, industries are changing, the fashion industry itself is changing as well. I would definitely say tailored pieces should be and will be eventually more you know, accessible as the future kind of goes on. There was a talk a couple of years ago that I did attend, and we were talking about you know, more sort of fine tailoring, what they call premium tailoring as well, and accessible luxury tailoring as well. And there was a talk about, you know, there are more kind of independent designers and independent brands that are coming through that are offering a slightly different view on how things are made, using sustainable products, you know, using fabrics made from, you know, milk, suits and wedding dresses made from milk as well. So there is a cost associated to that, but I think the more brands that come through, the more acceptable it is as well, the more accessible it will be.
And I think it's also, and I don't know if you agree with me, it's about a cost per use, isn't it? But if you think about something can seem really expensive as an investment piece, but if it's something that lasts you and becomes a wardrobe staple, then ultimately on a cost per use basis, it becomes quite affordable.
Definitely. And also I think it comes down to, you know, the knowledge of who you're working with and, you know, suppliers and the raw materials as well, because, you know, there is, you know, the cost associated with, you know, making a piece, but it's also looking at the value of the piece as well, rather than it just being a product in itself, you know, what it stands for, you know, why it's been made, but also the options around, you know, using different types of fabrics as well. That is kind of more affordable and accessible as well to the client.
And in terms of your Sinclair London, what would you say your point of difference is? I mean, what differentiates you from other houses that tailor for women?
So I would say our key difference, I would say, is my personal experience on Savile Row. I spent a lot of years obviously working with different clients, and you get to know, you know, different body shapes, you know, different styles that suit different body shapes as well, even down to the different clients, sorry, not clients, colours, obviously, that suit different skin tones as well. And I think when you're kind of trained in the pattern cutting side of things as well, you know, on Savile Row, you work down to the millimetre. So it's very, very specific. It's a lot more accurate. And I think when you've got the skills to do the making, the pattern cutting side and the fit as well, it's all around the fit and the figuration, which is something we can offer personally, but it's also something I can also train my staff to do as well.
And who is the ideal Sinclair London client? Who is the woman that you dress?
So our clients, I'd say typically they're usually between about mid-30s, so 34, 35 up until their 60s. We've got some sort of junior millennials, you could call them, who are, very, very kind of ambitious. They know where they want to go, they know what they want to do, and they kind of plan their career to get to a certain level. And then we have the more kind of influential ladies who are more established in their career, who have obviously the disposable income. And for them, they just want a particular style. They want to look great. It's for a specific event. And they want what they want. They know what they want. But a lot of ladies, they are quite established. I mean, I've got clients from renewable energy, we've got a couple in technology, we've got a couple in finance and banking, which is quite a big one as well. Things are kind of changing in finance and banking as well in terms of the type of garments they're going for. And we've also got a couple of ladies who are kind of influencers, so some from the music industry, entertainment, and a few of the actors and actresses as well.
And have you seen a shift now? Because obviously over the last couple of years, we've been largely working from home.
Yes.
Well, almost coming up for 2 years. Have you seen a shift in style and what people are looking for? Has it changed kind of what they're looking for in terms of their comfort and flexibility?
Absolutely. There's been a huge kind of shift and change in that. So more women are going, definitely, just because they're working from home, it's the comfort factor. They still want to look professional, but they want the comfort because it's at home. So we've seen more of a change into coordinate sets. So co-ord sets, which are, matching tops or trousers, still made for fine fabrics, but they're more comfortable. They're not as rigid. They've got more stretch in them. You can wear them at home, but if you need to pop to the shop, you can also do that as well. So there has been a bit of a shift. We still get a couple of ladies who are saying, when they go back to, Christmas parties, or they have to go into the office once a week based on what the company's going for, they still want that classic piece. But there's definitely more of a shift towards kind of, lounge wear, coordinate sets, and just very easy wearing pieces as well that are still sophisticated, but you can team them up and team them down.
Brilliant. We've had another few questions here, actually. Kate says she's interested in starting to make some of her own clothes. What advice would you give to a novice dressmaker?
Oh, I'd say go for it. Tuck in. It depends on kind of what road you want to go down in terms of if you're wanting to make it just for yourself, or you want to make pieces for other clients or friends or family. But I'd say, don't be afraid of things. Go for it. Everybody will learn things along the way. I wouldn't say there isn't any right or wrong way to put a piece together. There's only learning better ways and quicker ways of doing things. So yeah, don't be afraid of it. And I'd say definitely go for it.
Brilliant. We've had another question. Have you seen a trend in women requesting washable clothing for bridal and tailored garments? So less of a reliance on dry cleaning.
Yes, so we did an article actually on our website a couple of months ago in regards to some of the key factors to look out for, the key tools that you should have kind of in your wardrobe to look after your investment pieces. There's been an increase in washable bags as well. So where you put your garments in the washable bags and then you put them obviously in the washing machine and you wash them on a low temperature to make them more kind of sustainable. So there has been an increase in that, definitely, for sure. We're testing it ourselves as well. One of the key things we do, we always pre-wash and pre-shrink our fabrics before we use them anyway. So it means that towards the end user, the lady or individual, if they don't always have time to go to the dry cleaners or take something to the dry cleaners, they can put it in the wash without worrying that it's going to pre-shrink or it's going to change color or it's going to come out a lot lighter than what they usually go for. So there has definitely been an increase in that.
And do you advocate steaming to try and prolong the life of your products?
Yes, definitely steaming, more so than ironing. Steaming is a much better way. You get a crisper finish with steaming garments. There's loads of different types of portable steamers available on the market now as well. We did a couple of testers, and we've actually, again, in the same article we've put on the SL magazine, we've recommended a particular steamer that we use ourselves. But they're great. I mean, they're portable where you can take them anywhere you're going, especially if you're staying in hotels or you're traveling, you know, abroad, or, you know, even within the UK. All they need is a little bit of water. You know, they take 10 minutes to kind of heat up, and then you're kind of good to go. But they're also great when we're doing red carpet stuff as well. So you give your pieces a quick steam, and they look really, really good.
Brilliant. Well, it'd be great to get a link to the article and share that with everybody, because I need to buy steamer and I'm always up for good recommendations. So that would be amazing. But just to hear what else was included in the piece would be really helpful as well.
We've got
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say we've got some additional pieces that you could add to your toolkit. So especially for sort of like knitwear, when you've got the little bobble, so we've got like a little ball buster, we call it, which is the scraper that gets rid of it to prevent the longevity of your pieces as well. But yes, I'll definitely post the article so you have a copy of it.
No, that would be brilliant. And also the scraper as well, because I bought one of those debobblers and then I chopped holes in all my cashmere jumpers.
Oh no, okay. We'll definitely set you up for sure.
In terms of building your business, and obviously you started quite young, what's been the greatest challenge you faced?
Oh, greatest challenge, I would probably say cash flow. So, I mean, when I started, I was just like, right, I'm going for it, I'm diving in. And when I was, you know, younger, I'm still fearless, but I was a lot more fearless back then. So I was diving in. And I don't think people really tell you the different types of hats you need to wear when you start a business. You know, you need to be, you know, client services, you need to be front of house, you need to be receptionist, you need to be accountant, you know, you need to do the marketing, you need to do the business development. So it was, I would say, learning how to juggle all those different roles, as well as, right, so if you're doing, you know, business development, you get the business in, you deliver the business, you still need to be able to get that next client in or the next contract in order to keep cash flow going. So I think it was really trying to understand how to manage all the different roles, the different type of roles in terms of what you could outsource and who you needed to get in to help and support, and then being able to come up with a strategy that was suitable for the business and everybody that worked in the business as well.
Wow. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there in terms of the challenges, because this is something that we hear consistently across, you know, our membership, but also other women who have started businesses and not anticipated that challenge of having to be everything and wear so many hats. And it is difficult to find that balance between, you know, having your short-term, medium-term, long-term view and building a pipeline of clients to keep coming in, as well as then keeping an eye on or a hand in with everything that's happening currently in the business. So yeah, it can be really challenging. And I think a lot of people, even from a digital marketing perspective, you know, think about building the business, and then actually the hard work really starts when you have to start marketing it and going out and getting business, which is what we need essentially for our cash flow. So thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
And what about what you're most proud of?
I would probably say, I'd say probably the first piece that we had made, which was, it was a bridal gown for a princess of Qatar. And I remember that project took about 3 weeks just to do the hand-finished petals. So she had 450, it was lace and organza and satin petals with Swarovski crystals on the tips. And it was a very, very long project, but it was a very exciting project. And to see the finished piece, because sometimes you don't always get to see the finished piece when someone's, you know, in the actual garment. It was really nice to see her in the dress and to say, yeah, that was definitely worthwhile.
Wow. And was she flying over for fittings, or how did that work in terms of, you know, as you were saying earlier about getting it down to the millimeter, and obviously for bridal, that's really important, but also your body can change like in the days in the run up to your wedding.
Exactly.
How do you manage that?
So we had 2 fittings with her. So obviously her initial first fitting, which is obviously taking the measurements, and then we had a 12 fitting, which is usually the shell of the garment. So we had the shell fitting, looking obviously like fabrics and things like that, to have any tweaks done to the actual shell itself. Then it goes into the actual fabric. Then she'll have her second fitting, which usually towards, as the wedding gets closer and closer, sort of, you know, 4 weeks before the wedding, you do tend to see a trend in terms of ladies do tend to lose weight, not subconsciously, it's not their purposely they're trying to, but I think it's just all the kind of the stress and anxiety of, you know, the planning of the wedding. So you do get to see, you know, there is a huge drop in sort of weight loss for some of the women, but it's knowing, you know, where you would leave your seam allowances for the garments. You know, having a lace-up corset back has also been really, really good, because then you can fit it to the figuration of the female, and then you can always cover it with sort of like an invisible zip. So we would always recommend our clients to go for sort of like a built-in corset. So it's lightweight, but it also molds to their body of the shape. So there's no stress leading up to the wedding, whether it will kind of fit or not fit.
Amazing. We've actually had a couple of questions. Karen has asked, how have you navigated the need for the new and encourage women to embrace the culture of investment and repeat? And do you think that that's getting easier?
So repeat the question for me.
Karen has asked, how have you navigated the need for the new and encouraged women to embrace the culture of investment instead and repeat? And do you think that it's getting any easier?
I think we've still got a long way to go. I think with any kind of change or new, it's always challenging for people to kind of accept new and different ways of doing things. But I think the best way to kind of embrace, or to help people embrace it, is through education. So, you know, for all designers or, you know, brand owners to take responsibility of new ways of doing things, the way the industry is going, but also to educate ourselves and be able to share our education with the rest of our communities as well, and our clients, but also to, you know, whatever we believe in, to test that through our own business as well, and to have case studies to share with the community. So I think we are slowly embracing the new, but I do think we do still have a bit of a way to go.
And we've had another question actually about the stance of hiring rather than purchasing for special occasions. How are you dealing with that trend? Because I think there is a lot of awareness now around people, you know, being encouraged to hire an outfit for an occasion. Do you have items that are available for hire, or is that something you will consider doing in the future?
It's definitely something we will consider in the future. It's not something we do at the moment, because all of our pieces are kind of bespoke and made to measure. So it is specifically for a client and her specific measurements. But it is something we are kind of looking at, more so to do with the brand projects that we do. So for example, one of the projects that we've recently just finished, we've obviously made all the particular costumes for that. And because of the type of production it is, there has been interest in ladies wanting to be able to wear specific items or rent those specific items for specific occasions. So it's definitely something we are kind of looking more and more into, but it's just finding how it will work with our current business model.
And in terms of dealing with challenge and adversity, what would you say is in your toolkit? I mean, how do you maintain your resilience?
Education, definitely. I like to keep ahead of the game. I like to read reports from McKinsey and KPMG. They give some really good reports around the pest analysis, so everything to do with political, economical, social, and technology. And some of it is looking at obviously past results and looking towards the future, you know, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years from now. But those have been really, really good to help kind of shape my business strategies and help shape, you know, what we're looking forward to, sort of new technologies that are coming out, new ways of working, what new countries are doing. But then that knowledge then kind of empowers us as a company to then feed through to our clients as well, to offer them, you know, a different alternative to things within the market. So that's definitely one adversity, but also supporting that, I would also say keeping, you know, the team encouraged as well. You know, that we're going to have peaks and valleys in the business, but it's also knowing that, you know, they won't always last forever. And also just keeping, you know, a positive mindset as well. I think the mindset is a very, very important thing.
Absolutely. And what advice would you give to someone who is considering starting a business or possibly is unhappy along their professional career journey? Would you have some advice you could share with some of the women in the room and anyone that may be listening to this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say, well, I mean, we spend probably about 70–80% of our lives in work. So I'd say whatever sort of career path or business or, you know, job that you're in or you're wanting to go into, it's very important that you are happy and content. So I would definitely say first and foremost is sort of awareness. Look at probably why you're unhappy. You know, is it the company culture? Is it the company itself? Is it the people? Or is it the actual job? And then start to plan your exit. You know, if it's something that you really want to do, one of the best proverbs I've always been told is don't leave any stone unturned. So, you know, if it's something that you want to do, you know, have the courage to say, right, okay, within, you know, the next couple of months, the next couple of years, you know, I want to be in a new job or I'm looking to do whatever you want to do. And I always find that flowcharts are really, really good. And looking at, okay, so what do I want the new job to look like? You know, what kind of people do I want to work with? And kind of start manifesting that idea of what it is you actually want. And I would say the same with business as well. You know, if it's something that you want to do, definitely, you know, start to plan your exit strategy in, you know, working, whether you're cutting it down to full time, to 4 days a week, to 3 days a week, and then you go sort of full into, you know, running a business. But then obviously you have the realistic side of it where, you know, you still have bills to pay regardless of what you're doing. So weighing the two up as well in terms of, okay, what can you afford to live in? You know, what is it that you need coming in on a regular basis, month on month? And then what do you need to be able to support your actual dream as well? And then always try to have or find the right type of people that will encourage you and lift you up, as, you know, women, you know, fix each other's crown, rather than the ones that will kind of say, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, or you don't know what you're doing, because then it will kind of then start to hinder your thoughts. So I'd say those are the key things. Plan your exit strategy, try to find a good network of supporting women around you, and take it from there.
Amazing. That's such good advice.
Thank
And
you.
do you have the best piece of advice you were given? Could you share that with us?
The best piece of advice I was given was actually from my mum. And she would always say it all the time. And I think as you get older and as you run businesses and as you go through challenging times, it really comes to light. And it was, there's no time like the present. So I think when we come to, you know, difficult or challenging times, you know, some of us, we always try to leave the most difficult piece to the last moment. We don't really want to do it. We don't really want to kind of put it off. But I think the way we can grow as human beings, the way we can grow as individuals and as business women or business people or people that want to get into business, is by doing the most difficult thing first. And my mum was always saying, you know, there's no time like the present. Do it now, get it out the way. And then it kind of gives you that little bit more confidence and courage to do the next thing as you move to the next level.
Yeah, I think it's the swallow the frog
Yes.
analogy.
Analogy, yeah.
Back all those hard things on the head first, and then actually
Absolutely.
everything else seems a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely.
And you've been working on some really exciting projects, and I don't want to run out of time before we've had a chance to talk about them. Can you tell us a bit about what's in the pipeline and what we can expect to see from Sinclair London?
Absolutely. So I've just finished a project, one of our brand projects, well, last of our brand projects for this year. So it was a TV series which was commissioned by ITV and Masterpiece. And it was a production called, we can say it now, it's a production called Sandington, which is the last manuscript of Jane Austen. So that's due to come out in March next year. And it was a really, really exciting project. It was very similar to, you know, Bridgerton and Pride and Prejudice. And actually one of the former writers who wrote Pride and Prejudice had kind of put his input into this one as well, into Sandington. But it was just great to work with, you know, the costume designers who Lauren Millen, who you know, really put her stamp on, you know, looking at all the regencies, the different type of fabrications she used, and obviously working with the actual cast themselves as well. It was a really, really exciting project. So that one's due out next year. And then following on from that, we've got our first brand project of the year, which we're going to be doing another set of costumes for an opening and closing ceremony for a sporting event, which will be very exciting.
Amazing. I mean, when you're speaking about these things, like, they sound amazing, but they also seem like so much work to me. How do you manage that? I mean, because obviously that's a huge part of your business, but then obviously it's managing the bespoke side as well with your clients.
Yeah.
Have you had to sort of been forced into scale up mode where you've had to grow quite quickly to manage the workload?
Yes, I mean, one of our first projects we did where we were working on a film and we were doing an order for a client as well. I think that was the first time we kind of thought, right, we can't do the two at the same time and offer the same service to both clients. So we had to kind of look at, okay, so how are we going, how is it scalable, but how are we going to manage expectations as well? So, which is why we kind of limit ourselves to only doing kind of 2 brand projects a year, so we can focus on that. And then the rest of the year we can take a bit of a break, but then also focus on, you know, the new edits that we're doing, you know, look after bespoke orders that we're doing. And it's all around our calendar of events as well. So looking at, you know, the peak seasons where women will be, you know, wanting to buy more pieces, and then looking at the seasons where, you know, there's premieres and, you know, there's film viewings and things like that. So we have been kind of forced into, okay, looking at our model in terms of how we're going to do things, because especially brand projects, they do require a lot of work and a lot of hours.
Can you imagine? And as a matter of interest, what is the turnaround time? So if a client came to you and wanted, for example, a suit, how long would they expect how long would it take from start to finish?
So usually we can do something in about 16 weeks, but it really depends on the client's diary and how available they are as well. So we've had one lady who was traveling. I mean, she's very, very intense, her job. And she was traveling all over sort of like Malaysia and Thailand. And she'd probably be in the UK probably 4 times a year. So we had to make sure that we had to kind of cram in as many kind of fittings and appointments during that period of time. Otherwise, we would then have to wait sort of another sort of 4 to 5 months until she was back in the UK. So it really depends on the client's schedule, but we can usually do something within kind of 3 months. We try to look for 4 months at a push.
Okay, yeah, that's really helpful to know, just in case anyone on the call today is interested in having a chat with you about that.
Lovely, thank you.
Before we end off, I would like to ask you a quick round of questions. You can't think about the answers too much. You have to just say whatever comes to your mind.
Okay.
And while we're doing that, if anyone has any last questions that you'd like to pop in the chat, we can ask Alicia to answer those afterwards. But my first one is, who or what inspires you?
Oh, probably be my mum, definitely. My mum is a go-getter. She is, I don't think anything, or she might not show it, but nothing really seems to faze her. And it's been lovely kind of watching her career grow as well. And she's great at business development. And, you know, it's been interesting because I'd look at her and say she's definitely like a client, the type of client, but also she's a very inspiration influencer in her industry, which is tech.
And I think it was your mum that reached out to me and about Sinclair London in the first place, actually. I think I chatted to her on email for quite a while.
Was it her?
I think so. What about your biggest fear?
I'd say leaving the earth and not achieving what I set out to do and my purpose.
Amazing. The most courageous thing you've ever done?
Leave my job to start a business.
Yeah, most of our members say that, actually.
Yeah.
Do you have a guiltless pleasure?
Ooh. The first one that comes to mind is chocolate. I have to say that's definitely my guilty pleasure. Yeah, chocolate and films, I would have to say. I do love a good movie.
Yeah. Mantra you live by?
Don't leave any stone unturned. Yeah.
It's such a good one. And I think particularly going into a new year, it's something all of us can put into our toolkit and think about, because it's about tenacity, isn't it? And,
exactly that.
Making sure that if you're going to go after what you want, don't leave any stone unturned, and don't take no for an answer.
Absolutely. That's a really good one. Don't take no for an answer. Yeah. And don't be afraid of no's either. Yeah.
And also, I mean, following on from that, don't be afraid to say no, because I think that's something we all need to get better at, is putting boundaries in place and saying no, and knowing that it is always okay to walk away from something that isn't right for us.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that one, Michelle. And it's quite interesting when you work with, you know, directors and producers, and, you know, they want everything now or yesterday. It's a case of learning how to say no or not yet, but also leading on with a solution as well. It's a no for now, but etc., whatever it could be. So definitely saying, learning how to say no, but saying no in kind of a respectable and positive way as well, with a good outcome.
Well, and I think there's a lot of respect that comes from that. You know, I think if you put boundaries in place in an honest and respectable way, people really do, you know, they have a great appreciation for that. Ultimately, they might not like what you have to say in the beginning, but ultimately they do appreciate it, and it means that you do better work ultimately anyway, isn't it?
Exactly. So, definitely. Yeah.
And then the last one is your female role model.
Female role model, I'd probably say Michelle Obama. After reading her book, and there was a couple of things that she had done in the UK as well around about teenage girls as well. There's so many layers to that woman, which obviously you don't necessarily get to see obviously in the public eye, but reading more about her story, you know, even before, you know, becoming First Lady at the time as well, former First Lady, I would definitely say there's a lot of things that can kind of resonate, and that's one of the things you could look to her and say, actually, I like her as a whole human being as well as an individual.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely agree. I think she's one of my female role models as well, and it was absolutely sealed when she did her carpool karaoke, which was
hilarious. Yeah.
Well, Alicia, it's been so wonderful talking to you. Does anyone have any last minute questions? We haven't popped any in the chat, but we've kind of got a minute or so to go. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you might like to share with us today?
Probably, actually, we are going to be working with a company next year called Innovate UK. And actually, we're going to be testing some new products and services through the website, through our e-commerce, as part of our vision for 2022 into 2023. So I guess if anybody was interested in being part, we're going to do sort of like a focus group where we're going to be expanding the sort of products that we're doing. We're going to be doing more in the digital space around fashion technology. But we just need some individuals who would want to, receive a free product, basically, a complimentary product, in regards to giving us, some feedback in terms of the new digital space we're going to be moving into, and the digital technologies we're going to be adding onto the website. So that's quite an exciting project, which is going to kick off in January.
Great. Well, yeah, please keep us posted, and I can put a note out to everyone who's attended today to invite them to be part of that when you're ready. But equally, the larger, women's chapter group, if you let me know the sorts of people that you would be looking to be involved in that, and they can help you with that. That sounds really, really exciting.
It is. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be very exciting. So I'm super excited to get going with that. So thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. And we've had one last question from Daryl. What's the one thing in the fashion industry we are not talking about?
Very good question. There's a couple of things I would say. I don't think we're talking enough or showing enough about our supply chains in terms of who makes our products, where our products come from. You do see clips here and there in terms of, sort of behind the scenes, but I think as fashion companies and industries as a whole, the individuals that make our pieces are the ones that really should get the credit, should I say, over the designers. But I think we need to give more credit where credit is due, and I don't think we are talking enough about that. And we're not transparent enough throughout our supply chain. And I think that's one thing the fashion industry as a whole we can get much better at, and should get much better at doing.
Brilliant. Thank you. Daryl says agreed, still just not enough about the supply chain and the people involved.
Yeah.
And then we have one last question. She says, thank you, Alicia. We just wanted to ask, as someone starting out on their own business journey, from your experience and journey so far, is there anything you would do differently?
Oh, lovely question. Anything I would do differently? I would probably, yes. So I would probably make sure that I had the right type of mentor in place. I had a mentor when I started out in, obviously, running a business, but the mentor I had he was in a completely different industry, knew a lot about business, but I think as you get further and further on in business, you need to be able to have someone who understands. They don't necessarily have to be in the same industry, but they need to understand how your industry runs, the peaks and valleys and the seasons, and that it's more to, especially, fashion and creative industries, there's more to the industries than just obviously looking at the numbers. They need to know how the seasons work, and they need to understand the supply chains. So I'll say definitely finding a mentor that's kind of been on the journey that you want to go on, or is starting on the journey you want to go on, so they can kind of almost help you jump over, the hurdles that they've gone through, to make sure you don't make the same mistakes as well.
And to that point, actually, we've been doing a series of interviews with one of our partners, Investec, and what's come out through all of those interviews, speaking to these very senior women that work at the company, it was that it's not just about having a mentor, it's having a mentor, a sponsor, that actually you can surround yourself with a group of people who are all, have your back and are rooting for you, but are helping you in different ways. And I think as entrepreneurs, that's something we also need to get better at. I think we tend to, often our investor or investors are our mentors, or there are people that are giving us advice, but we underestimate the power of surrounding ourselves with a group of people that we can use as a sounding board, either from our own industry or beyond, who can give us advice, and then obviously supplementing that with some coaching or guidance. But yeah, I think that's such a good piece of advice, thinking about who you can go to for trusted advice and who really understands your industry, but then equally who else can give you perspectives from their industry.
Definitely. And I would absolutely agree with you, Michelle. I mean, what that lady said from the investment company, absolutely spot on. It's, you need to surround yourself with those individuals. You know, your mentors or sponsors are a really, really good one as well. And, you know, sponsorship can come in all different types of forms. It doesn't necessarily have to be financial. It could just be bringing a whole load of potential clients to, you know, to your business as well. But also, you know, opportunities to do other things within your industry. But also, you know, sort of preparing the gateway for you to have a seat at the table with some other individuals as well. And I think that's definitely the right way to go.
Yeah, because I think as entrepreneurs, thinking about who is out there that could be having conversations or talking about us and when we're not in the room.
Yes.
You know, essentially like ambassadors, I guess, you know, sponsors in that sense. But it got me thinking about how that's something that entrepreneurs could do a lot better, because we tend to just put our heads down and try and graft on our own. And there is something to be said for asking for help.
Yeah, absolutely. And not being afraid to ask for help as well when needed. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure. Thank you, Michelle.
Truly inspirational talking to you. You have just spoken with so much passion about your career journey and your business and your vision for the future. And we will all watch with great interest, but also as you've given us the opportunity to get involved with Innovate, please do let us know the details for that. A few people have said they would love to connect. And Daryl's put her LinkedIn here. So that's the other thing. If you're on LinkedIn, please, everybody, do connect with Alicia. I will send a follow-up email to this with the video once we have edited a little bit. We'll put some cover, you know, a branded slide on the front, but I will send a follow-up email. And if you're okay with that, Alicia, I'll copy you in.
Absolutely.
So everyone can then reach out. There may well have been people who didn't want to ask a question in a public forum and might want to reach out either with a question or a commission for a piece.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, thank you to everyone for joining and listening. You know, I'm very much happy to connect. And if you want to ask any questions personally, I'm more than happy to help. It's one thing when I was starting out, you know, it's great to, you know, just ask questions, always ask questions. You know, I was always told to ask questions. It doesn't matter how silly you might think it is, to another person it might be valuable. So yeah, more than happy to share details and connect further.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And if I don't get a chance to speak to you again before Christmas, have a wonderful festive season. I hope that you've got a good break lined up after all of the hard work that you've done.
I do, yes.
Like it's set to kick off soon in January as well. And the same to everybody else, wishing you a very happy and healthy festive season with your families. And I will hopefully see you all soon at our next events, which will kick off in January. Cheers, everyone. Thank you so much, Alicia. Take care.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye-bye.